Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to yet another edition of the Pure Digital Passion Podcast with me, Moses Kemibaro. Today's guest is Janice Kemoli, a branding and marketing advisor, somebody I've known for the better part of 20 years. And in my opinion, one of the people who's really at the core and the heart of marketing and branding excellence in Kenya and the rest of Africa. Janice has worked at illustrious companies such as Coca Cola, Equity Bank, and more recently with Prudential Insurance. And today she's going to share with us her journey from her early days growing up in Kenya and really reaching the heights and what I'd call the apex of marketing as we know it within Africa and the world. Thank you so much for joining us today. Janice, karibu sana.
Thank you, Moses. It's good to see you again.
Likewise.
Yeah.
And, it's a pleasure. We've had sort of moments over the last 20, 25 years. I think when I was first starting my career is when I first met you, when I worked at Africa Online.
Yeah.
And over the years, I think we've just sort of interacted at different places, different moments. I think your time at Coca Cola. More recently, I think there was a pitch and some conversations with one of the beverages businesses in Kenya. And I'm so delighted to have you here today.
So am I.
Especially at short notice.
No problem.
Yeah.
I mean, I love talking about marketing. I fell in love with it at university. I'd never heard of it before I went to university, by the way.
Uh-huh.
Went to university, to do a science degree because my mom is in science.
Okay.
So in America, a business degree is a Bachelor of Science degree or a Master's of Science. So I was like, okay, she's going to back off. So I'm going to keep telling her this is a science degree. So I went in blind, not knowing how much mathematics I needed to do, accounting, statistics. So you do 2 years, and then in your third year, you declare your major.
Okay.
And that's when I discovered marketing. And I was like, this is it. The perfect mixture of science and art.
So literally, this is something you picked up at uni. It wasn't something that you picked up when you were in high school?
No, I'd never heard of it. Never heard of it until I went to university. And America's very, you start wide and then you focus in.
Okay.
And I've come from the era of doing A-levels where we had already started focusing in. So I did geography, literature, history. I left mathematics.
Sciences,
I left mathematics a long time ago.
Uh-huh.
So you literally spend a lot of time in your basics in the first 2 years, doing a lot of mathematics, by the way, calculus, decision science, statistics, getting to understand how to use numbers, the relationship of numbers, what they mean, how to grow a business, and then you focus into your area. So even if you do HR, you start off exactly the same. Some guys get into finance or accounting or insurance, but once you declare your major, you have that strong background in mathematics before you jump into your area of speciality.
And what was the experience like? Because obviously you grew up here in Nairobi, in Kenya. I know you're at Muso, as we call it, Musongari.
And LCVR, Loreto Convent.
Yeah, exactly.
Kianda, Catholic all the way.
I was in Loreto Convent as a boy, when
I know.
I was in primary school.
Then you go to Saints after that.
In primary school, because I was in Mombasa, and that school was unique because it had... It usually had a ratio of 25 girls to 5 boys per year, but most of my family went to Loreto and Mombasa.
Yeah.
But it was part of the broader family, and I think even the swimming galas and stuff used to interact.
Exactly.
But what was that like for you, leaving Kenya, going to the US, to university? What was that transition like for you?
So I have amazing parents.
Uh-huh.
So we knew we were all going to leave home.
Yes.
And that was the plan.
Yeah.
Like for them, their love for us is one day when you leave, that was always the conversation.
Correct.
They both also went to school abroad as well. So my mom went to Canada.
Wow.
As well as London.
Wow.
She went to Canada after she got married and had 3 children. Went to McGill University. So
nice.
my North Star, both my parents had already done that journey. And we also used to travel a lot as well. So it wasn't the first time I'd left Kenya.
Oh, okay.
So we had a very exposed childhood. We were growing up at a time when Kenya was still very white, Asian and Black. So the schools we went to as well, we were very exposed
and multicultural
to different cultures.
Yeah.
Which is a nice way of saying we were dealing with Africanizing
the
Kenyan system at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So by the time I was going, I couldn't wait to leave.
This was on the plan. And of course, going abroad then was such a big deal.
I mean, for me, it was, I knew it was a destination.
Yes.
So it never occurred to me that I wasn't going.
It was the assumption.
It was the assumption. I was like, it's just where are you going?
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Yeah.
I had friends that have gone ahead of me.
Yeah.
A lot of my neighbors as well had gone ahead of me. So even where we grew up as well, as a neighborhood, it wasn't unusual to go to university abroad.
Yes.
But my mother was also very clear, because she went to Canada, that she wanted us to go to North America because it opens your mind. And she's very big. They're both very big on saying, have an open mind. Don't be so closed. There's a big, big world out there.
Yeah.
Go discover and then figure out where you want to go.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I love parents like that because even like in my experience, a lot of my older siblings went out, and I think, again, the expectation was always there. But I think given the Kenya we came from at the time, it was often a sort of a night and day transition for many people.
Yeah.
And especially exposure in areas like marketing where you went into. So I'd like to get a little bit further into sort of your early days in your career. So you finished at uni, presumably you came back immediately. Did you work in the US
Came
for a
back
period?
straight away.
Uh-huh.
Marketing was it wasn't a unique profession.
Okay.
In America, it's very, there are lots of marketers out there. At that time when I was there, Asia was blowing up and nobody knew about Africa.
The Asian tigers at that
Exactly.
point, the Malaysias.
That's when if I tell you when, I went to university in 1985 and came back in 1990. So at that time, the internet was blowing up. I went to school in Pittsburgh, so Carnegie Mellon was really leading the whole internet thing. CNN had just started. So there's a lot of technology surrounding us.
Yes.
In the university, IBM had labs.
Oh, wow.
So I literally transitioned from sitting in the library typing to going to the IBM lab to now do my work. Apple had a little computer in the library. I still remember.
Nice.
And everybody was talking about the Mac, the Apple, and it was that square.
Yes, I remember that, yeah.
So that's when I was in America. Can you believe it? And then, of course, the height of the way the music was. It was very, very exciting to be in America at that time. So I didn't want to come back. I was like, look, I want to stay, start my marketing in America, and then figure out, what the plan is going to be. But then I discovered that, Africans are not clearly wanted in marketing because they have enough Americans. So the Africans that were getting jobs are the ones that were in really technical positions.
And a unique skill set, maybe.
Yeah, unique, like a pharmacist where there was
I get you.
There was a need.
And a clear gap, yeah.
Exactly. But also the Asian kids were getting hired in America to work in global companies at home.
So they're grooming them to then go back to China, go back to wherever, yeah.
And not only that, the recruiters would come to the university and literally get them and take them back.
Wow.
At that time. So I actually had a very good mentor. And that's one of the things that is very important. And I'll talk about that a lot.
Yes.
Everybody needs an angel, a mentor, a coach at every single stage. So there was a mentor program on campus, and you'd have lunch with this person while you were in school. And she told me, apply, but go back home. Go back home. And then I got a letter from Johnson & Johnson. It was a rejection letter.
Wow.
But it was very long. And it said, dear Janice, you have amazing qualifications. It's good, you've graduated, but we don't need you here. We need you back at home.
Oh.
But we don't have a program to recruit, but you have to go home because there are other multinationals in Kenya. So go home.
That was a very thoughtful response.
Can you imagine? I've never forgotten that letter.
Thoughtful. They didn't just say too bad or like saying too bad, but.
They said go home where your skills are needed.
Wow.
Absolutely, they're needed there.
Am I guessing you ended up there?
No, I did not. And I've never worked there.
Okay.
But I've never forgotten that letter.
Okay.
So I went back home. I graduated and got home in May is when I graduated. By August, I was back home.
Wow.
And with my sister as well, because we both graduated at the same time.
Okay.
And I was like, goodness, now let me party a little bit. And then I said, no, I want to start working. And I knew because of the university training that I wanted to be a brand manager.
Wow.
I knew at that time, I knew. Because they also did psychometric testing for us.
Wow.
And they said, you're not a salesperson, you're not this, you're actually perfect for brand management. So I came home knowing I want to be a brand manager.
Wow.
In 1990, in May. Not even knowing if brand management existed in Kenya.
Wow.
Because I'd been away from home.
Correct.
So I started, applying for jobs. In the paper, there were jobs. Sat with my dad and told him, what advice do you have? And he was like, write down a list of all the companies you want to work at. And then he started deleting because he was involved in quite a number of those companies. And he said, no, this is not going to work.
Conflict or something.
So I said, just give me one hookup. Because those days you needed a hookup.
Oh, yeah, your folks would be so vital.
Just one, please.
The ones where I know a guy.
Yeah, I know a guy who knows a guy who... Because they didn't understand what I was talking about anyway.
Yeah.
So for them, he knew... what's his name? Hill and Aiton. So he knew Mr. Aiton. Because they used to play golf together, AYNR. And he said, she sounds like she wants to do advertising. I don't understand what she's talking about.
Oh, man.
My mom is like, why did you come home to sell Omo? Like, what is the plan? You know? She forced me to go for an interview with a company I won't mention in sales. And I was like, I'm not a salesperson. It's brand management. I manage the P&L. I look at the product and the pricing and the distribution and then the promotion. My job is to get P&L growth. That's my job. That's what I do.
And people those days, I think the roles were always called sales and marketing,
exactly.
if I recall correctly. And the marketing was second.
But there were companies that were doing that already. So Colgate Palmolive was doing that, Sterling Health was doing that, and Unilever. Those are the three companies that existed, and BAT.
And of course, there were globals, right?
Exactly, and BAT. So getting into one of them became my obsession. And then we had a contest because a couple of us had come back home. Who's going to get a job first? You know, and I always tell people, you know, make a decision. Come back straight away or stay there for about 10 years and then figure out how to get back with the company that you've joined.
Correct.
So I'm so glad I came back straight away. And then I got a job with Colgate. Went for an interview. And one of my first angels, which I keep talking about, a lady called Sally Mukwana saw me. And when you come from America, you know the way you see them, the way even Hillary Clinton dresses, even the decor, you're confident, you're in a suit. You've got my dad had bought me a briefcase.
Oh, imagine. Nice.
I still remember that briefcase, by the way.
Yeah.
And you walk in, you're confident, you know what you're doing. Remember, I come from a technical background as well. And I walk in and I'm like, I hope these guys are using, those days it was Lotus 123 and WordPerfect.
Yes, I remember.
Exactly. And I was talking like that. And I knew it was about P&L growth. Let me tell you, I got that job.
Straight up. Brand manager.
Straight up. I was earning 10,000 bob and I felt like a billionaire because I'm still learning. And I was a trainee product manager.
So it wasn't even like a full role.
No,
You're still entry level.
Entry level trainee product manager. I was 24 years old. Everybody else was in their 30s. In fact, I was called Kairetu. That was my nickname.
No way. On site.
Imagine. Straight away. But it was an American company.
Yes.
So I was like, I'm still at home.
And there's a sort of almost an element of plug and play into the culture, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And within my career, I've realized when I work for American companies, it works beautifully. When I work for British companies, the culture is very different.
Yes.
So I struggle in that culture. But the American culture is very, this is what it is. It's about driving P&L profit and all those things.
Fantastic.
So that was my first job.
Colgate so what did that entail? What were you doing? I mean, imagine this was what we'd call an aqua ground job, meaning you're kind of like getting the handles. Were you one of those guys who drove a truck?
No, it was Yanni. I was a product manager from day one.
Yes.
And one of my first jobs was getting a presentation together because the VP from New York was coming.
Wow.
And the format was there, the template was there.
Oh, so you just have to plug your content into it.
American companies are very structured.
There's no ambiguity about these things, huh?
And if you don't like that structure and organization, if you feel like your creativity is being cramped, then you don't last. But I thrive in that environment, by the way. It's very clear what the framework is.
Correct.
And it's very clear that we're very goal-orientated.
Correct.
The why and the where and the when and the what are clearly articulated at the end of the day. And the guy walked in and the first thing he said is, are you going to make money for me? You present a P&L first. That was the work
before
of marketing.
Before the sexy branding marketing stories.
First of all, you're even the one that decides whether you have a budget or not to even go on TV. Because you set the margins. You're working with the suppliers to provide the packaging, the ingredients.
To that extent.
That is what brand management is.
Whoa, hang on, that's not even brand management. That's like business management.
It's product, pricing, distribution, and promotion. The 4 Ps.
Yes, the 4 Ps,
And I know I get a lot of bashing saying, it's old-fashioned, the Ps don't exist anymore. But there's always a P. every single business has a product, has a pricing strategy. That's how you extract your revenue.
Has the place, the promotion.
Where are you available?
Yes.
And then you communicate. And that's how I learned marketing. So when I joined Colgate, it was the perfect soft landing because it was exactly what I was doing in school.
And there's perfect alignment with what you had come back
Perfect
with.
alignment.
Yeah.
But the best thing about it is I now had Kenyan contacts. I know how to make a mold to make a bottle. And I was buying molds on Baricho Road for the plant to say, we're now going to this particular supplier, General Plastics at the time. You didn't just buy bottles. You had your own bottle shape. They sent you to go and buy a mold. You design the mold, you work with the mold guy, and then they blow the thing, and then you start
Janice,
working.
you're kind of putting my head in a spin here because the things you're describing are not what I consider marketing and branding. They sound more like you are in the ops of this business.
But that's what marketing is. So American companies, marketing leads the organization. The only other organization that is Kenyan, the only organization that is more Kenyan, Kenya Breweries. It's the same thing. My last stint with Kenya Breweries was exactly the same as my stint at Colgate, chasing glass, presenting P&Ls, explaining why the P&L margin differences are existing. Why is there no growth?
But a lot of young people today who are brand managers or marketers in the classic sense, I don't think they know the stuff you're talking about.
So one of the things that happened is that after I came back, I was being encouraged to do a CIM, which I'd also never heard of. And I was like, when I looked at the classes, I said, but that's what it is. You need to have a marketing qualification. I have a Bachelor of Science degree and my major is marketing. Remember what I talked about? The basics? So if you don't know your numbers, how are you managing?
So it's coming almost from a business foundational part.
Marketing
and then
is business.
Specializing in the marketing piece.
Marketing is a business tool.
Yeah.
It's sitting within the business. And organizations that are successful, marketing leads the business. At EABL and at Colgate, the marketers tell the organization where they're going. That's your work.
Because they're rooted in the business itself and then understanding the consumer as well.
Marketing is the business growth driver. It's the biggest investment you're making.
Yeah, absolutely.
The biggest investment you're making, but you're managing a P&L. You're not spending money. You're managing a P&L. You're investing. So one of the last things I did at Tusker, when I was managing Tusker, was buying glass, running a business case to say we need to buy glass because Tusker malt is sitting in the wrong glass.
What?
And you're running a business case, you're getting approvals, convincing Jane Karuku, who's also a classically trained marketer, by the way.
And that means you're talking to procurement, you're talking to suppliers.
The reason why Jane is successful is because she's a classically trained marketer. Her background was nutrition and then brand management at Cadbury's.
Fantastic.
And that's how she learned how to link the P&L and the business to her marketing skills. She's a classic marketer. Classic marketer.
I'm so delighted to having this conversation because, I feel like I'm learning things as well, because I came from a digital side of things.
Right.
But I really feel that there's something here people need to hear and learn about.
Right.
So take me back again. So at Colgate, we're now in, looking at packaging, going to Baricho Road. What's happening there and going forward from there?
So basically, as you presented your business plan, because you're presenting a business plan, you then say, what am I going to work on? Because your goal is to grow profit.
Correct.
So you're managing your cost of your product. You're redesigning the formula if you need to.
Wow.
Working with suppliers like perfume suppliers, because that's where a big cost comes through as well. So companies like Givaudan, IFF are actually huge companies that sell flavors and dyes and perfumes.
These are the inputs now, right?
Yeah. All the inputs, exactly. You're dealing with the inputs, you're dealing with quality control, you're dealing with getting the product every single day. You're signing off on production. If there's quality checks. You're also looking at your pricing strategy.
Wow.
You're looking at whether you're doing a 30% margin, a 50% margin, a 10% margin. So you're managing that. You have a portfolio of products. I was managing Axion. I was managing Ajax and Stay Soft.
The first two are no longer in the market. Is Stay Soft still around?
Stay Soft is still around, and I still use it.
Wow.
Yeah. Still around, and I still use it.
Wow. So those three categories were yours?
Those three categories were mine. So you're a category manager at the end of the day, and your portfolio playing. So where's my profit coming from? How do I turn sales? What are my transactions? You're also looking at your data analysis by SKU. And an SKU is 10 grams of Colgate. That's an SKU. You have a P&L for that particular SKU. So you know whether you're pushing that or you're pushing another pack because it's more profitable. You're defining the role of your packs so that you can say that 10% of my growth will come from this pack, but the contribution will only be this because the margin is low. You're assigning what your recruitment pack is, your frequency pack, your retention pack. You're doing that as well. And then now you're psyching the sales team because you've decided where you want to see your product. The sales guys don't tell you where they're selling. You tell them where to sell.
Wow.
They focus on the art, they focus on the science of selling. But your job is to say, this is where I want to be available.
Yeah.
Then you go to the agency.
So after all this is now when you go to the agency and
That's
say,
when you
give
go
me a
to
big idea.
Let me give you a big idea. But before you go to the agency, you've written your brand plan. And your brand plan is, what do you stand for? What is your positioning? Your brand is not a logo. Your brand is, what do you stand for? Why are you different? What is the reason why the customer is buying you, regardless of what the sector is? What is the reason why people come to Kenya? What is the reason why I'm buying a Mercedes versus a BMW? What is the reason why? And that you get by looking at brand architecture. That's now the emotional connection. I'm emotionally connected to a Mercedes. It's a ruler brand. I feel like I'm in control when I'm driving. So all the advertising is about being in control and dramatizing control. In a BMW, it's about mastery. I feel like I am the best driver I'm the ultimate
it's a
driver.
driver's car. Yeah.
Exactly.
Ultimate driving machine.
Exactly. But they're selling, they're communicating, German engineering. Those are all the functional things. But what is the emotional reason why?
I mean, let me give you an example of just a brand that I'm so attached to, which is, obviously Apple, right?
Yeah.
And I've been on a MacBook now, I think, for 15 plus years. And the first experience, I mean, it was almost like a hallowed experience getting my first Mac, unwrapping it, putting it on the table. But more importantly, I think there was this ambition to have a Mac. It was like 3 times the price of a comparable, Windows-based machine. Still is. And I've gone through so many of them since. But more importantly, I always tell people that when I roll up with a MacBook, even in conferences and events, when I'm with other Mac people and other Apple people, by extension, iPhones and so forth, there's almost like an elite culture or an elite tribe. And then it's almost like we get it. We are the elite people. And I'm saying this unapologetically because I can't tell you how many conversations I've started in airports, in conferences, even in a cafe. And someone says, "Oh, is that the new one? Have you got? How's it working? Which one did you go for?" Same with the iPhones, which I've used for many years, although I transitioned to Android about 2 years ago. And it's completely logical. I can't explain it. I don't know why I pay the premium, but it's never going to change. It'll always be that is my preferred brand. Same with Nike. When I wear a Nike shoe, I'm not necessarily the best athlete, but it makes me feel like I'm the athlete.
Yeah.
And for me, that's the apex sports brand for me. But anyway, I think that kind of plays into what you're saying.
That's another hero brand, by the way.
Yeah.
So Nike is a hero brand, and it's all about excellence.
Yes.
At the end of the day.
Doing your best.
Doing your best, excellence. But then again, what it also teaches you, if you decide to use that route as a brand, you then say, I need to make sure that I showcase excellence. And the product needs to be wow. But how am I showcasing excellence? That's why Nike uses athletes, but not just any old athlete. They believe everybody's an athlete, but they want to inspire you by showing you incredible excellence. And that's why they pick the people that they pick.
Michael
It's
Jordan,
not every athlete.
yeah.
They pick certain athletes.
Tiger
Woods. You can name them. Kipchoge.
I think Kylian Mbappe is also with them. Yeah.
Serena Williams.
Correct.
But they also are people with something to say about the world.
They have a personality
All
about
of them,
that, yes.
They have something to say about the world, and they change the world view on
Wow.
their expertise.
Hence that association.
Absolutely. When you look at the advertising, you're like, it's true. This guy broke the world record. Somebody else came along, but he's the one that told us it's possible. And that's why they say, just do it, it's possible. right? But they're the ones that break barriers. All of them have broken barriers because they're a master at what they do. And that's why they're a hero.
Wow.
So all of it is very logical and very strategic. And it creates that cohesion for you to be able to explain why your brand is different. With Apple, it's about being driven for the need for innovation. So they're a creator brand, but they're inspiring you to think about innovation. They really are an innovation brand. Google is not an innovation brand, it's a sage brand because they want you to have knowledge. So being a sage is all about helping the world to gather knowledge at the end of the day. That's what
Wow.
Google is about. And that's where they sit.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the position. So basically what you're saying is that these are things that are inherently known to the brand owner. They've broken it down in the architecture. And as you're going to your agency, you now have essentially this blueprint that you take to them and say, okay, guys, this is what it is. This is what we are. Now tell me how we take it to market.
Absolutely. And there are 9 different components of it. So you're actually listing all of those on one page, saying this is what our vision is, this is what our business type is, this is who our target audience is. But again, using the archetypes, because the archetypes have emotive words. Creatives need emotive words. They need to be inspired. They're not inspired by the fact that water quenches thirst. They need inspiration. And that's where you bring the brand to life. And then at one of the portions of it is a portion called storytelling. What is your story? And that's where the creative really latches on because they now dramatize what is your story. Yeah. What are we dramatizing? We're dramatizing the fact that for Safaricom, for example, it is the widest and it's the widest network that connects you to people that you care about. So it's the width of the network and the fact that there's an emotional connection. I'm calling my mom, I'm calling my dad, right? So that's what this work does for you. But remember, this sits on top of the fact that you have a marketing strategy where you're making sure the product is correct, the pricing is correct, the availability is correct.
That underpins everything.
So the brand is on top, then the marketing is now the action. That's now the activity behind getting the money.
So I get the sense here, and again, I feel that your experiences at companies like Coca Cola, which we'll get to, and also your time at Colgate Palmolive, they have very well developed, well defined, structured branding approaches and architectures. I tend to think that a local brand or Kenyan brands, and I think we had this conversation a few days ago, we're not quite there yet, are we?
Yeah. We're not. And to be honest, it disheartens me. At some point, I had to let it go. I was like, it's just the way it is. So the most important thing that I find that I've learned is we shouldn't be an island. Don't be an island. You need an angel and a mentor. It doesn't matter what your business is. So all these brands, the Unilevers of this world, the Coca-Colas of this world, Heineken, they have a lot of respect for professional consultants. Coca-Cola consults with a brand consulting company to help them to define what the brand is. Every year when they present the brand plan, they've worked with a brand company to do that. And that's the work of the brand director and the brand owner. That's all they do all day. They create that structure. They use market research so you understand where your customer is or your consumer because they're moving, they're not staying still. So, how are you maintaining your positioning and making sure that the customer knows exactly where you are? Whether you know where they are, sorry, my bad. So, the thing about it is that they have respect for professionals and they really respect the view of the professional. When I worked at SmithKline Beecham, it was a fireable offense to abuse the agency. When I worked at Colgate, you have a fight with the agency. I was told to go and apologize.
Wow.
Yeah, that these are our partners. It's a partnership. You're walking together. They are the expert. You need your suppliers. Your lifeline is your supplier.
But I don't feel like the client-agency relationship is in any way that way most of the time.
So when you talk about it with Coca-Cola, I remember the day I was called and I was told, can you please apologize to these guys? What you requested was fine. It's the tone of your voice, the way you spoke to them. You need to check yourself.
I'm sorry, but many clients treat agencies, given my experiences, very badly.
I know. And I learned that when I first started working. Your suppliers are the experts. The agency is a communication expert.
Wow.
The market research company is an expert at getting insights. Even doing a sample, making sure that the sample is accurate,
The
setting
curation of that,
the
yeah.
curation of that, finding the people to even speak to you,
Wow.
defining what the insights are to help you differentiate. The supply, remember I told you about the suppliers of even the product that you're making. Going to a flavor company, they also do research as well. And they're
Wow.
looking and understanding. But also the other thing these guys have, they have insights into what's going on globally. Because as you know, and I know you talk about that a lot, trends are global. Human truths are human truths. So you'll find that something happening in China is very similar to what's happening in Kenya. But if you don't lack onto those professionals, you're missing out on what's going on at the end of the day. So your suppliers are your angels as well.
And those key insights are so important.
The key insights, because things are not staying still. They're changing.
Constantly.
Change is always happening all the time. So, like after COVID, there's a company called Trend Hunters. And he's got a theory that says every state is either before chaos, during chaos, or after chaos.
Wow.
Every business is affected by that. He goes around the world talking about trends based on that theory. In fact, just go and Google that guy. It's so amazing the way he talks about it. So is your business in a state of after the chaos, during the chaos, or before the chaos? And the cycle continues. We're now coming out of post-COVID. So the consumers are reacting differently to what they're looking for, how they want the company to behave or the product to behave towards them because of what has happened at the end of the day.
And that's almost like saying your brand has to be, you don't want to be tone deaf as a brand. You want to be plugged into that moment.
Absolutely. So a company like EABL has that link.
Yes.
They respect the professional arm of their business. There's an agency we used to use in London to do all our labels.
Wow.
And I'm telling you, when those guys take you through a label design,
it is thorough.
It doesn't take 2 minutes. Yeah? They show you a mood board. They tell you these are the trends in labels. Then they say this is now what the brand legacy is. By the time the guy gives you the label, it's so much fun going for those meetings.
And the detail and the passion that has gone into it.
And the art direction is correct. Nothing is off kilter because this is what these guys have been trained to do. If EABL can do that, then, and it wasn't mind-blowing cash, to be honest, to use those guys, but the quality of the work was a function of using experts to do the work at the end of the day. So what I found when I came back from university, I didn't understand that was what the problem was because I was working in multinationals. And then at some point I went to South Africa to work in South Africa as well with Coke. When I came back in 2015, I suddenly realized there's a problem. People don't know how to define their brand. They don't know how to say one thing about their brand that differentiates them, that gives someone a reason to buy. So what you're doing is you're all discounting and chasing and running multiple things that don't relate to each other. There's no cohesion. It's not a simple message. The agency is frustrated and confused. So it's just not, there's no communication.
Actually, the biggest challenge I think most of our agencies face is that when we look at the brief, we can't make head or tail of it.
Yep. There isn't one single cohesive thought
a fine
or description
point,
that says this is the reason why I buy a Mercedes because I want to be in control.
A singular statement.
That's it.
Yeah.
I want to be in control. The backup behind that is the engineering. But when I get into the car, I'm in control. That's what I'm buying. I'm buying the need for control.
The same way Volvo owns the positioning on safety.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I want to feel safe. It's also excellent engineering, but I'm not a Volvo person, and that's why the shape is the way it is. So you feel like you're safe. But for Mercedes, the control, Kwanzaa inside the car is even more important than outside the car.
Correct.
You know? When you're driving in a Mercedes. But a Mercedes is very similar to a VW. When you get into the Mercedes, you've driven a Golf. It's a similar experience. Everything is where it's supposed to be. You don't have to turn your head to try and find where to turn on the radio. So you basically are in control. When you brake, it breaks. When you turn the steering wheel, you know you're not, hey, my friend.
And that actually shows,
and that's the experience. Yeah.
So I'm curious again, because we've got the Colgate. So you got the Colgate
Right.
period. You're now sort of getting grounded in. You're creating plans that go well beyond just marketing. It's down to the intrinsic, production side of things. What happens after that?
So just explain. Ask that question again. When you say what happens after that,
Yeah,
because
so
that is marketing.
Yeah, so you're in Colgate and you're doing all these things,
right?
And again, you had the right foundation from uni, but now you're doing all these things to make sure this. So now at this point, I think now you've gone to the agency and you're now that process of you've got your brand architecture right, presumably within the local Kenyan context, and now you push it to the agency. What happens at that point thereafter?
So you also have a method for how you write your brief. At Colgate, we had a one-pager saying the 11 Ps.
Yes.
But within those Ps, you also had to say, what do we want you to dramatize? And you literally tell them, I want you to dramatize control.
Wow.
And the fact that your teeth are clean. The Colgate gives you control over tooth decay. That's what I want you to dramatize. So now you guys go and figure out the big idea. Give me a payoff line. How are we dramatizing the fact that I've given the consumer control over managing their oral health care? And then you guys go off and run off. But we've seen each other together in pitches.
Yes, correct.
Where you guys are now being forced to do that.
Yes.
But you're not the brand owner. You're the communication expert.
And then you spend more time trying to figure the interpretation rather than coming up with a creative.
And then what happens is that you now run down, because you have to choose a route. So you're now telling them what you want to dramatize. And that's why you keep getting rejections. They're saying, I don't like it. That's not what our brand is about. I'm not feeling it. That's the worst. I'm not feeling it. I'm like, what do you mean you're not feeling it?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you mean you're not feeling it? But if you are giving that feedback to your agency, you have failed your agency.
Wow.
There's no other way to put it. You are not clear about what you stand for, which means the customer is also not clear why they should come and buy you.
Wow.
It's as simple as that. There's no clarity. And when you find brands, the vernacular is coming through.
Yeah,
when you find a brand floundering, I was trying to put those two L's and R's together.
Yes.
It's that lack of what do you stand for? And it affects everything.
Down to your agency engagement. Yeah.
Even down to the colors you now use.
Wow.
So this color blue means something. Blue, all colors define something. If light blue tends to be younger, dark blue is more formal, yellow is passion and energy, but so is orange. So are you a yellow brand or an orange brand? At the end of the day, but you won't know that if you don't go through that process of defining. So local companies miss that. The head office is in Nairobi or in Kampala or in wherever. The only country where they are on par with America and the rest of the world is South Africa.
Within the continent, in your
South
opinion.
Africa.
Why do you say that? What did you see in South Africa when you
Because
Coca Cola?
they have schools to teach you how to do that.
And we don't have that in Kenya.
We do not. When you hire a brand manager, they have advertising schools. They have brand management schools. I've hired brand managers from those schools, my friend. They're pelekaing me. Because now they're
stretching you.
They're stretching me. The conversation is here. Wow. I'm not carrying them gently. We're now running.
Because you all kind of get it.
Exactly. We get it. So now it's a higher level discussion about whether it's a hero brand or we're having proper discussions. And it's a decision. You decide which direction you want to take.
Wow.
Yeah. At the end of the day, he knows how to look at the artwork. He understands where the problem is. So now you get on, because it's a technical job. Marketing is not a thing you fall in love with and fall into because, it looks like something cute and nice to do. There's a lot of hard work in the background.
And the science to this stuff.
And the science as well. And linking the numbers to having an emotional connection. You said you paid a premium. You paid a premium because there's an emotional connection.
There's an emotional satisfaction. Like
exactly.
an itch that needs to be scratched.
Exactly. But at the same token, when you use the product, The emotional connection is still there. So the briefing for the product designer is when they experience the product, I want to elicit a feeling of control, a feeling of innovation, a feeling of safety. There's a question I ask guys. If you're in a place where you've never been before and you're thirsty, and there's a Coca Cola and a water brand you don't know, which one would you drink?
I'll go with the Coke brand because I know Coke.
Safety, trust, safety.
And the fact that it's sort of
I'm
an
safe.
umbrella for everything they make.
I'm safe when I drink this product. I know this product is safe.
Wow.
Imagine, which is mind-blowing.
Which is pure emotion. Huh?
It's mind-blowing. That water, you will actually pick that over the bottle of water.
From a random source.
From a random source.
Wow.
And you'll say, let me drink the soda for now until I figure it out. By the way, I put it to you that you even drink a beer, you'll drink a Heineken as well before you drink the water.
I mean, to me, to the extent that when I'm on a trip somewhere, like a road trip, and at the point where I need to top up fuel, it's so specific.
Yeah.
Especially when you go to like a country and you see these random regional brands.
You have to go to Total.
Then you're like, is that a Total? It's Shell or you know, the brand Rubis? I would look at those three as my primary brands.
But Rubis has done a lot of work.
To get to this point.
To get you to this point.
Yes, correct.
They're also ubiquitous.
So you the find network, I think, yeah.
Absolutely. A network is important. It's also a part of building that trust. We're available. You don't want to be driving and saying, oh my God, where in heaven's name am I? There's no petrol at the end of the day. But you see a Rubis sign in the background. There's even one, I was in Kinangop.
Yes.
There's one off the road. You have to drive off the road. If things are thick, I will drive off the road to go to that Rubis.
Because you can trust it's
because I don't know there's a Shell or a Total further down the road.
Wow.
Yeah. So that safety thing is very important. That's what they're driving, is safety. So you're dramatizing safety, but the dramatization is not a post. That's one of your communication channels. For them, it's having multiple points where you can find them. So the brand doesn't just sit in the communication, it's in everything that you do.
Wow.
And let me tell you the one brand in Kenya that figured that out, Social House.
The restaurant, the hotel?
Yeah.
How so?
I walked in and I said, this is different. Who is in charge of this? Who owns this place? I can see that there's a brand here. I can see that there's a brand
Down
here.
to the experience.
The experience, and first of all, the fact that it's called Social House, I suddenly got it. The Social House is because their brand promise is socialization, but Kenyan socialization. Urban, modern, Kenyan socialization.
And they've localized it.
No, it is their core. It is not.
Oh, sorry, you're right.
It Absolutely. Is a Kenyan brand. It is the most Kenyan brand.
It springs forth locally, yes.
Totally.
Yes.
It's a Kenyan brand completely. So when I sat and I said, I need to meet these owners, when I called her, she said, no, we used to work together at Barclays. And I was like, really? She said, you know what happened? We have a hotel in Meru called Elba. When we came to Nairobi, listen to me. When we came to Nairobi, we realized that there's a lot of competition. Why are people going to come to us? You know, they asked the question, why? Why us? And why not someone else? They have the perfect location, but why will people stop by? And that's the time when a lot of other global brands were coming through.
The Radissons, Kempinski's.
They'd also been spoken to by one of the global brands. And that's what these guys are doing. They go and they say, we'll brand for you. They even had a room set up. And she kept saying, no, there's something wrong. This thing is bugging me. We're just another Radisson or another, Parkin or whatever the other names are. She went, she had gone to Dubai to go and learn about hotels and how to manage hotels. Remember what I said?
Yeah.
Exposure. Go find out what's going on in the world.
See what the best practices are.
Exactly. And a guy talked about branding. And she just threw his card in her purse and was like, why is this thing important? She woke up in the middle of the night and said, where is that guy? That's the guy who's going to help us. He's going to help us to find the reason why people are going to come to us.
That DNA.
That thing. She called him. The guy came. He's the guy. He said, scrap everything. He said, let's get a flip chart. And he did that process I'm telling you about. What is it about this place? There is no other hotel in Kenya that is high level, that is Kenyan. There is no other hotel. Which other hotel is Kenyan? People, you can go to the Hilton or you can go to Social House. But Social House is a Kenyan experience. From the gates, the friendliness, the way the guards talk to you. It's the same security check I went through over here, but it's a different experience at the Social House. Yeah. When you walk in, there's a Maasai on a bike. There's the coffee. Straight away, there's coffee and a sitting room. Karibu chai. See, that's how we are. Yeah. And then the people walking around we are your guest in our home. Even the way they speak, even the way they're dressed. The shoes are leather. We do leather products. The way the rooms are, it's fun. Us guys love fun and socializing. Everything about that place is not structured the way a hotel is structured. It's fantastic. Even the food.
You know, something that you're saying here that kind of reminds me of, I think there's an anecdote shared in the Steve Jobs biography where he talks about something he learned from his father. His father was I think he was like a hobbyist carpenter. And you make these beautiful pieces. And you're saying to him that, you know, as much as there's the exterior component, which is beautiful, the interior, which people will never see, should also be made with the same care and love. And he was explaining the way that when they build Apple products, that philosophy lives in there, that even the bits you don't see have been beautifully crafted because our ethos is all about that.
Yeah.
And what I'm hearing you say is that Social House has almost paid the same attention to the bits you don't even really notice, but subliminally it's coming into your mind.
That go back there again. It is incredibly detailed. The beds have a leather strap. The waiter has a leather strap. It's the same color leather strap. They're obsessed with the detail of bringing their brand to life.
Wow.
But the thing that I found most fantastic about them is they are also the brand. They're young. They're a young couple.
Yes.
They want to hang out with they want to hang out with their friends. They are social. So when that guy he must have observed them and said, these are two very social people. They are the brand.
Hence even the name.
Yeah. Then the final nail in the, let me not use the word nail in the coffin, but it is the nail in the coffin. They attract a lot of women. And most outlets that attract women are very successful because men follow the women. And the trick is the bathroom. That's it. The way that bathroom looks, it's like it's your bathroom in your house. It's not a public bathroom. It's so beautiful. And again, it's very creative. And we spend a lot of time in the bathroom when we go out.
You know, it's so funny. I've heard this said by women before.
Yeah.
You'll say a place to go to, and they'll even make a remark like that one. The bathrooms are not nice.
The bathrooms are bad.
And literally that scratches off a place for a lunch or coffee.
Exactly. When I was driving, when we were coming back from Kenyan, we had to go to the loo. There's a business called Loos for You. At the Naivas and Art Cafe stopover.
Yes.
Right? That place is packed. And it's full of women. I don't see a lot of guys walking in through that thing. It's 20 bob. I mean, I'd even pay 100 bob, by the way.
Wow, just because of that.
Because that loo has been made for women.
Fantastic.
Loos for You. There's a guy's section and a female section. But I see a lot of women walking through. And you have to stop to go to the loo. Then you're like, oh, let me go to Art Cafe. Let me go to Naivas. Yeah.
Now, I want to tap into something that happened, which I think is so critical for this conversation. You and I were talking last week, and you shared with me that during the COVID period, you're going through some transitions. And during this moment, you had sort of an epiphany, a moment where you understood, I think, probably the challenges that face our local brands, or rather our Kenyan or African brands, because I think you've said it very clearly that there are gaps, given your time at, the Equities and the Barclays and all. You said to me that you had come up with some kind of a method or framework that our brands can use to almost elevate the appreciation and execution of branding to the level of what you have seen based on your experiences with the globals. Can you take us through that and just give us a sense of what is that? How does it work? And more importantly, I think for our audience to really appreciate, because I'm feeling like I'm getting a masterclass here right now from you, and I've been in digital marketing for over 20 years, but I'm clear to kind of understand, what is this and how does that work? And how did this insight come to you that now you're applying to the work you're bringing to a lot of the brands you work with?
So let me start off by saying I'm turning 60 next year, which I'm finding so fascinating in itself.
Wow.
So we talked a little bit about turning 50.
Yeah.
After you turn 50, you start realizing that you need to get out of the way. Being employed is becoming challenging for you, the employee, and the employer as well. You're getting more expensive. So you know that your days are numbered and you have to start figuring out what you're going to do. So there was a period of time, but just before COVID and after, where I was sitting there thinking, what am I going to do? And I just sat and I thought, let me actually focus on the fact that I am a marketing and brand person. That's all I know. That's who I am. And you just sit and you think, let me just use the same process that I used when I was marketing Coke or Fanta or Minute Maid or the other brands. What is the gap? Why are all these local brands scattered? Because that's what I found. There was no cohesion. Kenya Airways, KCB, Kenya as a country, Tusker at the time, Safaricom. I was like, these brands, I'm not seeing the cohesion that I experience when I work on global brands. I can't say one thing about them. And they're doing a lot of activity, which is difficult to remember the last campaign you saw. And I'm like, these guys are really, I could see the struggle at the end of the day. So I started writing down, why is Safaricom looking the way it looks? Why is it not the same as Coke? And the one thing I found is that everybody's focusing on their logos. There's a logo obsession.
So we're more focused on identity rather than the soul of the brand.
The identity of the brand, the logo of the brand, where we're applying the logo. No, we're applying the logo without asking where are we applying the logo? Does it fit? And what is the reason why this brand exists? I couldn't answer the question for any of those things. And the quality of the output was differentiated depending on where you experience the brand. Across all those brands, by the way. Having just come from South Africa, where things are completely cohesive. You walk into a Woolies food market, it's so cohesive. The branding is always white on black, the way it's applied, the way they manage their stores, the items in the store. It's completely cohesive. And that's what I saw. So it took me some time, almost like 8 months to write it down. Then I discovered a guy called Stephen Houghton. And because again, you have so much time. It was a friendlier time those days. People were sharing information. And I bumped into him on YouTube. And he was talking about the fact that people are losing the art of building brands. It's not just happening here, it's happening in a couple of places.
Okay.
Unless you work in a big multinational, they don't have access to the big brand agencies, the super unions, the interbrands of this world. Yeah. And there are many other names. Coke uses Interbrand, for example. They've been using Interbrand for many, many years to help them design their brands. And then they stick with Ogilvy when they're now designing the creative. So I sat there thinking, this is what the problem is. There isn't a one-page statement that says this is what these brands stand for. That's why everyone's running around doing 7 different things. And that's what I call task-orientated thinking rather than strategic thinking.
It's more tactical.
It's very tactical, so tactical. And it's also a very big waste of money. The second thing I found is that people are focused on market share. They're obsessed with market share. I need to get market share. When you're Safaricom and you lose 1 point, everyone is stressed. I'm like, market share is not the goal. What is your growth? You can have 100% market share of a shrinking market. So why are we obsessed with market share? In fact, there are times I used to keep quiet in meetings because I'm like, this obsession with market shares is driving everyone mad. If you have 100% share of market and the market shifts and you're losing, you need to ask yourself, which is called a blue versus red ocean strategy. Why are you fighting in a red ocean and discounting? How do you create a new position? And a new position could be the way the product is viewed differently. You don't even have to change the formula. You just say, this is our brand archetype. This is the reason why our brand is different. So there are 8 things that I ask. What is your vision for the brand? And which is the place where you want to be in the future?
Correct.
And it's a simple statement. What is your business type? So for Airbnb, for example, they're in the business of, they're a software company in the travel industry. But their business type is that they're a software company, but they operate in the travel industry.
Correct.
When you say business type, that's how you make your money. They make their money by being a software company, right? They've created a platform for the travel industry. If the travel industry is not there, they can create another platform, like Uber is a platform
Correct.
for the travel industry as well. But they're two different companies in the travel industry providing a software service to get access
To the travel itself.
Exactly.
Yes, yes.
Now they're competing in a blue ocean because they're competing with they're not competing with software companies. They're competing with hotels and all sorts of things. So why are they different? Because they're giving you a unique, memorable experience. When you get on Airbnb, you're looking for something unique and different, not the same bog standard hotel. If you're a frequent traveler, you're either high risk or low risk. So they then say frequent travelers is our key target. They don't want to stay in a normal hotel. They want to stay in a unique and memorable space. Yeah, at the end of the day. So that's how you start building your story. So for Airbnb, the next step is now describing the target audience from their point of view. I'm a frequent traveler that's looking for a unique and memorable place to stay that I can find easily. You're not writing how we used to write ABC female. That doesn't inspire the creative.
You're really getting to the fine tip of that particular audience.
Then you say, what is the purpose? The purpose is to provide the service. What is the mission? What is the story you're now telling as well? And after that, now you talk about your logo. That's why our logo is pink and white and whatever, because we're trying to attract this person. But the most important thing you put there is what is the archetype of the brand? The archetype of the brand informs everything else. If you are the archetype for Airbnb is an explorer and a caregiver, right? So they care for the customer, they're providing a service, but they also know that people like to feel free. Then the traveler is also someone looking for care and freedom. So you start to see a thread running through and you dramatize the freedom you feel because you can now go anywhere in the world. You're free to discover the world and you also belong. You never feel like you belong in a hotel, to be honest. So this whole thing of belonging is also another part of what they're selling. So they also use another archetype called the everyday person, which you're looking for belonging, you're looking for freedom, and you're looking for service. That's why you're different from booking a hotel. They give you access to all these wonderful properties. Some are not so good, but the ones that are doing well are the ones that provide unique, memorable places to stay.
And of course, they get the fantastic ratings.
Precisely. And now, even if you want to be an Airbnb host, you have to now abide by that. Then you put in your values. So your value for them, for example, is you love being a host. That's a value. Love being a host. That's not like saying integrity, quality. No, love being a host. But they already know that they need to provide a memorable place to stay. Now, I'm an Airbnb person on holiday, but when I'm working, I need to make sure that the Wi-Fi is working. So that's another aspect to it as well. But now you see those words are consumer words. So they've definitely spoken to customers to say, what are you looking for? Why don't you like hotels? Because I feel boxed in. I feel like they have rules. I want to feel free. So their brand is all about freedom. How do they dramatize the freedom? By saying that you belong anywhere. You can now decide to go to Bali or go to New York through Airbnb. Before, it's like a project. Where am I going to stay if I decide to go? But now with Airbnb, you can even say Lanette, and they'll show you an Airbnb in Lanette.
Correct.
Or
everywhere.
Alaska. So the whole world is opened up, which is what travelers that want freedom are looking for.
Correct. Wow.
Yeah.
Have we gone through all the steps there?
Yeah.
All the 8? Wow.
All the steps. Yeah.
And this is a framework that you kind of have built and developed over time now. And I presume you're actually applying it to our local brands?
I've applied it. I've had the privilege of applying it now twice. Right? Now, when I say twice, I mean like local brands that are looking and have paid me a check to do it.
Wow.
But I've also helped other people by doing it for free. So there's a company called Kwasi Insight. I don't know if you know Kwasi Insight.
Sounding familiar, yes.
Yeah. So
Uh-huh.
we became fast and furious friends during COVID, and I took him through the process. So we, because he's in Canada and I'm here, 3 in the morning, we're working on the worksheet. So helping me to understand how to make it work. But my favorite client in the whole wide world, I keep telling them, is Sarit.
Oh, Sarit Center. Okay.
Sarit Your City.
Uh-huh.
They are another angel in my life. They heard the story and they were introduced to me by my first angel, which is a lady called Sally Mukwana, who runs an HR firm and she helps people to structure their businesses. And she just told them, you need a lady called Janice. We work together in Colgate. She understands how to build brands and manage brands. And so that's the process that I used. When I entered the business, they now have, within a 4-week, 6-week period, a clear vision, a clear target audience. In fact, they have 12 target people that they're inviting to come there.
These are the
clear
key
on their
personas,
occasions.
right?
Yeah. They know exactly who they're looking
It's
for.
defined down to the T.
defined
So
down
this
to
is
the
where they
T.
start to now behave and operate like what you saw in Coke and
Precisely.
other organizations.
And there's a template that I introduced.
Wow.
Their incredible marketing manager, Kazia, is now using that template. And now when I even got an email from them, they now have a special kids area. They've revamped their kids area based on that.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And their goal is to get people to stay there from morning until night. And they have different target audiences, different areas where they know they want to be. But the one prevailing reason why the people are driven there is because of the variety, the premium outlets and variety. It's the one place that has variety. It's not about having 1,000 stores. It's about the variety and their premium stores.
There's something so profound about Sarit
And
as
that's
a
why
business.
you see some brands that have gone there.
Yes.
Some premium brands have decided to go and open there. Yeah.
But even over the years, there's always been almost a ridiculous bias for people to go to Sarit compared to other places nearby that are newer, fancier, whatever, but they keep going back to Sarit.
Absolutely. And now they are also an organization that respect suppliers.
There's a culture to it as
There's
well.
There's a culture of respecting suppliers, listening to experts. Have you seen now the new branding now to enter into
Yeah, I've seen the changes.
That came out of our research. We did research. People said they're getting lost. We hired an expert who's based here, and he's the one that said this is how you do the customer journey inside the mall.
Wow.
So people can find their way. They respect, Sarit is one of the most incredible CEOs in this country. He respects, and his board as well, they respect professional services. By the way, but you better know what you're doing. Because they're sharp.
They also value competence.
They are competent and they value competence.
Fantastic.
And then we created the app. The app was part of the
process.
Now they have an app.
So it's touch points all across.
So it's touch points all across. And but that came out of the cohesiveness of understanding. So what is it that we do? Even the signage outside, now that they've written Sarit outside the building wasn't branded. We said that who is our premium North Star? Yeah. How do other malls look that are premium malls? We're not chasing competition. We're looking at what are the global standards and therefore where are we?
So you benchmarked at that level.
We benchmarked based on whatever. And we saw Saks Fifth Avenue, the way they write their name outside. And then the way Sarit is written, it's very, freestyle and friendly. Just put that on the thingy. But there's a written plan based on customer research. They followed that process completely, and they've actually executed it. I'm working with another client as well.
Yes,
we're going through. I can't talk about who the client is right now.
Yes, I imagine so.
We've had a breakthrough.
Yes,
and they can now suddenly see the brand in a different light. And the thing that was interesting is when I go through it, we have the framework. The other two things I tell them is the dictionary is your friend and the thesaurus. The dictionary has all the words you need and the thesaurus will give you synonyms that you can use. But within that framework, I tell you the description of what a hero is, and then you're clearly picking that, and then also working with the consumer to say, is this how the brand makes you feel? Yes.
Wow.
So pole.
Building up.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So much time has already passed, and I really want you to give us some nuggets that I think marketing professionals and business leaders can take away from all that you've learned and all that you know and that you've shared with us today? Are there some parting shots that you would like to share? And then I think the last thing I'd want you to do is maybe share a little bit about yourself, how people can find you, how they can engage you, so that they too can start this journey of brand transformation.
Okay. So I really thought about that. What are the parting shots? And I think the first thing is, from a personal perspective, find a mentor and a coach. Don't walk a journey alone. They're angels. You'll find an angel somewhere along your journey. Don't try and manage your career or your business alone. It's very, very difficult to do it that way. The second thing I'd say is sit in the blue ocean. Stop fighting this market share discounting thing.
This tactical game. Yeah.
So in order to do that, you need to invest in customer and consumer research. You don't know what your customer's thinking if you don't talk to them. That's really critical because they're at the center of everything you do. If you don't have their voice and you don't understand their needs, why are you making whatever gadget or widget that you're making? You don't know what need you're satisfying at the end of the day. Then the final thing is have suppliers that have international connections.
Oh, okay.
Find a way to connect internationally. You don't have to be international, but you'll find that even companies in America have suppliers in another part of the world because you need to be plugged into what's going on globally.
It's a cross-pollination or something.
You need cross-pollination. You need cross-pollination. There's so many ideas out there for free. And we're so lucky now that we have the internet. Yesterday, I was watching YouTube. There's a guy who has he's one of the largest, fastest growing maize millers in Kenya. And he's built that thing somewhere in Rift Valley, on his father's land. He's told the story. And he said the number one reason why he's succeeding is because he went on the internet and he found people that know how to make equipment for milling. That equipment is creating the quality because people want fine flour.
So it's an amazing story. And he found
it. Did his homework, but he didn't go to a Juakali guy to say gonga he thing. He went to a professional, and it's a professional business in South Africa.
Yes.
Their work is to make milling equipment. They must know something that he doesn't know. Make sure you have that global link. Have respect for your suppliers. Stop fighting this red ocean thing and make sure you have a mentor who's guiding you. I've had so many angels in my life that are guiding me. Till today, there are people in the background that have actually helped me.
Okay.
Yeah. So where can you find me?
Yes.
Basically, as I mentioned, I'm currently working with even Prudential Insurance on contract as a consultant.
Yes.
They found me on LinkedIn.
Oh, so LinkedIn is your base.
Right. Janice Kemoli.
Go to LinkedIn.
And there's only one Janice Kemoli that I know.
Yeah.
And you'll find me there.
Yes.
Send me a DM message and I'll respond. In fact, I found quite a number of clients in that way.
Wow.
That's the fastest way to find me.
Janice, thank you so much. I wish we had more time.
Yeah.
It's been such a pleasure. I feel like there's a part 2 of this coming.
No problem.
And more importantly, I think the knowledge and the insights and the experiences you've imparted here are absolutely priceless. And I hope many of our audience find value in the same as well.
I want to say thank you. Thank you for asking me, giving me the time to talk. It's very valuable to me to be able to share knowledge. I'm a sage, by the way. So
Okay.
I love sharing knowledge.
Awesome.
And providing understanding. So I really feel very, very good to have seen you, spoken to you, and to have you listen to me today.
Oh, thank you so much. And the honor is mine. Thank you. So
Thanks
there
a
you've
lot.
heard it. That's Janice Kemoli, our branding and marketing advisor to local and international brands. And more importantly, I hope that you've gotten some value out of this conversation from a marketing and branding perspective. But I think what Janice has done is just crystallize the key principles of effective marketing and branding with excellence, but more importantly, giving us a perspective that's relevant to many of us based in Kenya, Africa, and this continent. We'll catch you in the next one.